Plane does indeed fall mainly in the plane. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. It is Brendan O'Connell. It is the 14th of December. It is 8:31 p.m. Sabado, Saturday night. As usual, I'm out partying because I am a homosexual drug dealer, as Mike Gill said. As per usual, just had a beautiful shower. You know, when you have a shower, you just do not want to get out of that shower. It was one of those showers. It was a. What are we going to talk about today? We need another big picture. We need a rundown. We need to talk about the usual suspects and the usual subjects. Donald Trump, the Trump administration, what to expect when they come in. Everything is unfolding exactly as I would want it, kind of, but there's absolutely 100% deliberate psychological warfare going on. Take it that to the bank. So I wanted to go over this again, understanding AI, quantum, everything, every missile, every act of bloodshed is about this new system. I want to go over it again. I really want to reinforce something coming from this. AI is not hype. The retail AI you see is utter garbage. What do you think, or where do you think the missing trillions from the Pentagon is? You don't get to use that system. That's the same system they've integrated in with the battle management system that's coming out of Ukraine as they wind down that war. It's disgusting what's going on in Ukraine. Absolutely disgusting. Now watch this video that is centered to the video I will make today. That's the video I'm making now, such as life. Just to let you know, um, I'm going to be doing those more mad monks where I'm just going to see one subject, grab it on the tablet and just pump them out. And I'm going to do that. Meanwhile, I'm going to be doing the Kay Griggs video to completely break up that 7-hour interview, add material to it, do a voiceover chapter by chapter by chapter. So it's probably going to be about 7 hours long, but it's going to be chapter by chapter by chapter. Anyway, I suggest you watch that video, AMD's Chip Queen. That's Lisa Su, the head of AMD since 2014 when it was $2 a share. Yes, she is brilliant, although they had a lot of help. One of the things, I urge you to watch this video. It's all linked below. YouTube AMD CEO wants to chip away at Nvidia's lead, the circuit with Emily Chang. Watch that 24-minute video if you know nothing about things. And we can even, I just want you to remember too that if you notice something, like this is all normal now, chips. How long have many of you been around? Since I got back from Iran, many of you and before, but a lot of you since 2017. Okay, remember when I was in, I would just got back from Iran, I was very depressed. I was in my windowless hotel room. What did I go on and on and on and on about? Why did they put Taiwan Semiconductor and the world's high-end chip manufacturing 100 miles from China? Have you noticed now the CHIPS Act and it's all just, well, chips, bring the chips back, bring the chips back. Do you notice how casually they do this? The United States decided to outsource all its chip manufacturing, high end, to a little island, not off Antarctica. They didn't put it in Australia. They didn't put it, I don't know, in the Arctic where the penguins are. They didn't put it in Ireland. They put it in Taiwan, 100 miles from China. And nobody's asking the questions. Why did you do that, Heinz Kissinger? Why did you do that? Well, the same reason they sent the manufacturing, because while they tell you to look over there, look out there, look out there, the enemy out there, the enemy was within the gates. The barbarians were inside the gates. Now, Lisa Su, as brilliant as she is, and Martin Chang, the guy that was started Taiwan Semiconductor, are not independent operators. Those people were handed that technology from America, from the system that had been put in place under Heinz Kissinger and others to subvert the United States. And they were handed this US technology. That US technology that you were going to see in those videos, and it's vital that you understand this. I don't care if you're a housewife or a mechanic or whatever, you need to understand this. To really ask the questions as you go about your day. And Mary's, talking to interesting people right now, again, thank God. So it gives me hope. But what we need to understand is we need to then ask the question. And of course, when we ask the question, the answer is not going to be very good. God willing, Donald Trump, despite all you see, Chabad Lubavitch, and I believe they're going to throw them all into Ukraine, including all the Hasidim, the ultra-Orthodox, out of Israel into Ukraine. What can I tell you? So We need to understand that cadence design and all these other little, not little, large scale like chip simulators and material science, the material science for different exotic materials. That's American. That's American. But then you see cadence design moving R&D to where? Israel. You see how they were pushing Intel Corporation R&D to Israel. That's all been reversed. You know, that was started by, well, that was started by the Trump administration. So Wilbur Ross and all the rest, even Pete Navajo and others, and Steve Bannon. So with that in mind, before you come to a conclusion that Trump sucks, and believe me, I know how much he sucks. In fact, I put to you, I know how much he sucks more than even you know how much he sucks. But the bottom line is, before you make up your minds, and I'm not going to deny anyone hating Donald Trump, but most of the people that hate Trump, the reactionaries, they don't factor in all that other material. They don't factor in all those other good things, which I put into the recent videos about the election. But you need to understand that the stuff is all US patents. Technically, you'd say the City of London, they trace all the way back, but they're US patents. Like, you probably haven't heard of cadence design, just for one. They do chip simulation stuff. That software is licensed. All right. All that equipment you see being assembled by ASML, you always hear about ASML in the Netherlands. Okay. Well, guess what? The Netherlands assemble that stuff. They don't make a single thing there. Not a single thing. It comes out of the United States almost exclusively, and Deutschland, Germany, the incredible optics that come out of the German state. They assemble it in the Netherlands. That was a gift to the Netherlands from the United States, as Taiwan Semiconductor is not owned by Taiwanese. It's owned by the US. And ultimately, those patents are owned by the Department of Defense and DARPA, if you really want to get down into the weeds. None of them own a fucking thing. Excuse my French, and I'm not going to stop swearing, but I'm going to cut way back in the swearing. Definitely. It's time. 54, Brendan. You're a good boy. But I hope you understand that. The patents are US patents, all of it. Taiwan Semiconductor has no say in those fabs. Zero. US says, bring the fabs back. You do realize, even with the CHIPS Act, how much money Taiwan Semiconductor is spending, and even Intel? 20 billion of their own money, 40 billion total between them. Okay. I beg you to please watch this thing there. Okay. A&D's Chip Queen. Now, what I want to do is, I'm going to show you a clip from one of my favorite movies from the book Fire in the Valley. It was about the founding of Microsoft and Apple. And in this scene, you're going to see Steve Wozniak confront Steve Jobs about the way he had pitted the Apple II people with the Macintosh people. And when you see AMD and you see Intel, it's the same system, because ultimately this system is one. This great power competition, all right, not just amongst militaries and whole economies, but amongst corporations like Intel and AMD, they're owned by the same damn people. All right, it's owned by the same people. It's all fake competition. I want to see them move away from that into cooperation, total cooperation, to reach to the stars. And that is the new system we will move to, and we'll move away from the War Powers Act. We'll move away from war and the economic stimulus of taxpayer-funded military hardware, and God forbid, where I hate to see it heading, but it is heading that way, drones and robots to be used against us, that technology used against us. We already got it through the war on terror. We've already got it being used against us, and I ain't seen it stopping yet. I hope it will. We're going to move away from the War Powers Act and that report from my mountain into space exploration. But there are gigantic issues that have to be faced. They are gigantic issues. Demographics is destiny. Demographics is destiny. You have more old people living longer, and you have less and less young people. No one wants to breed. No one wants to stretch their vaginas and get stretch marks on their bellies. They all want to be little goddesses forever. So no kids. And then they'll say, well, we actually can't afford it, Brendan, when you take into account a mortgage. Don't worry, we're working on that. Everyone deserves a home. Everyone deserves the basics of food, water, and shelter. Basics. The rest is up to people. And right now in Australia and other places, but in Australia, people can't even afford to pay their rent, and it's being done deliberately. Of course they are, getting ready to lock down the dumb Australians who lost their way in the last 10 years. Like, I can't even believe just the difference from when I left Australia. But there are huge issues to face, and I mean huge. And that Trump administration is just a continuation of the people who ran the Biden administration. The front has changed, the facade has changed, the lights have changed, the colors have changed. Same people, Department of Defense, FBI, the old Skull and Bones crew, that old establishment. Hence why maybe we see Susie Wiles there. But ultimately, big questions are going to follow us around. Big questions, so big you wouldn't believe, but they can be addressed in an age of cooperation, in a planet led by the United States. Led by the United States and its holy, divine political document called the US Constitution. That is what is going to lead it. The questions to ask is, how long does it take to educate a population, and how many fools, idiots, syphilitic monkeys have to pass through the Trump administration before we feel completely insulted? And I'm just thinking, number one, Elon Musk and Big Viv, the little con artist fraudster, are gonna go after the government waste. That's one of 10 things where I just go, that's psychological warfare. That is destabilized perception. They are doing it on purpose. So we're going to have to wait a year, certainly wait a month, wait until they're in, and then see what happens over a year. But if we just continue to see Chabad Lubavitch sniffing around, the common criminals of the Kushners and the rest of them, if they continue to sniff around over the next 12 months, then there's clearly a problem. And obviously the American public is willing to wear it. I mean, I don't even know what to say when Chabad Lubavitch and all the Hasidim lunatics, and they're filthy rich on drug money, diamond money, they are the lowest pus-ridden filth in history. God willing, they're all going to be ejected from the fucking country. And not only that, they're not just going to be ejected from the United States, they're going to be ejected from Israel. And it looks like they're going home. And Ukraine, you'll have to decide what you're going to do with them. Let's now watch this segment from the movie Fire in the Valley. If you want a copy, I can get you one. It's a great movie. I wish they'd just remake it with the same script, everything. Just film it the same, just with new actors. And you've got to watch that doc. It's a docu-movie. It's a movie based on the founding of Microsoft and Apple. And it is one of my favorite. You know, tonight on my tablet, I'm going to watch it tonight. Let's watch the scene where Steve Wozniak complains. They're all in a bar and they're throwing food at each other. And he's deliberately created this competition between the two things to get them creative. This is very, very, very instructive. Sorry, we're going to start 3 clips from the movie Fire in the Valley. Sorry, actually, I've forgotten the name of the movie. Oh, I'll have to think about that, but it's from the book Fire in the Valley. It's an excellent, excellent movie. But here's what they say. In the first clip, they're going to show you how Apple got the mouse and the graphical user interface off Xerox. Xerox had developed it, and they were ordered to hand it to Steve Jobs. And so, as brilliant as Lisa Su is, Martin Chang and all the rest, they were handed that technology. It was handed to them. AMD was $2 a share and going bust. They were given, they said, listen, we want you to do chiplet technology. Intel's going to continue their monolithic. And that's the way they share it around. It's a highly managed world economy. There's no real capitalist market. It's at best, it's a quasi-capitalist socialist system, but really, it's really, when you want to get down to it, it's a highly managed mechanism of the economy, and it could be a very different economy if it wants to be, but it's highly managed. And what we see as capitalism is really 70% socialist taxpayer handouts. That's really what it is. It's a highly managed society, just like they managed the Ukraine war. Now let's watch this excellent, excellent segment from where Steve Jobs is going to go down to Xerox and basically steal their stuff. Persuaded Xerox head office to show them all this groovy stuff. He persuaded, really, really. I'm sure there's okie dokie, great scenes from there. I love that movie so much. It's so instructive, that movie. Steve Ballmer, that idiot, coke to the eyeballs, you see him. But that's the first scene. Let's now watch the next scene. Okay, so this is the segment when they're in the bar throwing food at each other as he sets a design team against each other. This is the way the world is managed. This is the way it's been managed, particularly for the last 100 years. It could be managed a completely different way too. It's managed, 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 managed. Actors put forward fake scripts, all sorts of fakery going on. This is where they're at the beach and he talks about their destiny and he's manipulating them. This is this is the way the world works. This is the way they manipulate individuals, collectives, communities, and whole nations. And the way you were seeing the AMD Intel thing, and the way you're seeing how it was all shipped out, and now they're all shipping it right back in. Managed, managed, managed. We need that big picture where we go, are we going to use the military industrial complex as the driver of high technology, which then manufactures the technology that will absolutely enslave and ultimately kill us? That's the big question. So when you watch this movie, and again, I can help you find the movie, but it's on Netflix, it's out there, and it's one of my favorite movies in terms of the way, just the acting, the script. It was quite a few years ago. I think it's 2002, 2001. And I think it's very, very well made from a very highly well-received book, Fire in the Valley. And then you will begin to understand how all this is managed. East India Company managed. Let's go back to this section here where they're on the beach. Listen closely. Listen to the manipulation. Great movie. Great movie. And that's the way the world is really run, as if you didn't know. Let's get back to and that's a little bit of gold there. That's a really important thing to take note of. So there's Lisa Su, and you can watch that AMD's Chip Queen. Now, I always found it funny that all the go-girl alpha females, corporate CEOs, you never hear her name. In the industry stuff you do, I mean, I read about her all the time, but in terms of out there in the, on just different shows featuring, leaders of industry, you hardly ever hear them mentioned, which is really surprising. But the point is they make these superstars, whether it was Bill Gates, who's a genital moron, total fucking moron. And it's the same with Elon Musk. It's the same actors, although Jobs was actually brilliant. Although the guy that was really behind Microsoft and the coding was not Steve Ballmer or Bill Gates. It was the other guy who died of cancer. Oh, his name escapes me, for crying out loud. They just prop forward. They get all the funds. They get all the foundation funding money, and then they prop up some moron. Lisa Su's not a moron, of course, but you get my point. And this is the way the East India Company is managed. And now you see new kids on the block, the old order, the old WASP establishment now taking over this process. We're going to have to ask, again, the big questions as we watch this Trump administration, Department of Defense, as they do a lot of right things. Are we going to get a popular culture? And are we going to get rhetoric that asks those big questions? Are we going to inform the public? We're going to educate the public into those big questions. What are we going to do? We can't all build our 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom houses on our quarter-acre block and have 6 kids, can we? So what are we going to do? All these big picture items. Demographics is destiny. Demographics is destiny. Burn it into your brain. And what we need to do is have some wins, feel good about some things, some changes, and then we've got to ask those big questions. This is a multi-decade program. Multi-decade. You need to get on board so you can get a control of it. Get on board and get control of it. That's what you need to do. And I'm talking decades ahead. Decades. Let's go back to reading from this screen. So as things unfold, you're going to see high technology more and more and more. And they're going to keep telling you this new system they're putting in place. And you're going to have the rock stars, and we're going to about to look at a moron in a minute. But we've got to ask those big questions. It's all about data. Ultimately, I'll repeat it to you. Data, 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 AI. Who collects the most, not just data, real-time data. They want real-time data. That's the aim. And when they get it, I promise you, you combine quantum computing, they've got it already. It's already happening. It's not something you can just use casually. It's not going to take over our classical computing. But when they're mixing it with that CERN particle accelerator, they want to simulate the universe. I can't tell you how important this is, more and more and more, how important it is. It's that real-time data. We're going to need new rules, regulations, and rule sets. Yeah, okay, I'll give you my data, but you're going to have to pay for it. How about that? And they say, fine, we'll give you UBI. Oh, yeah, you had that one coming. Okay, well, we got to talk about it. The US is going to sit right there and say, it's all you see unfolding in the Middle East, Ukraine. This is all about data. It's all about setting up this new system. And the US is going to sit there and suck down the data, and the US will lead in AI. That's good. I'm glad. The next question to ask is citizen participation in the political process, and above all, not just ordinary people, we want that as well, but the managerial class who are going to sit on boards to oversee this new technology. That's why the US just needs to rule openly, just openly rule. We're going to control it. We're controlling the issuance of currency. We're controlling the means of production, the means of transportation. We're going to control the whole fucking thing. Suck on it. Everybody get in line. End of story. Now everyone's in line. Oh, look, what a horrible thing to be in line. You've got peace, prosperity, and all those other things. That's great. Now, we need the big picture discussions of the popular culture. Where's the popular culture going? Are we going to have degenerate shit? Are we going to raise children to be the best they can be physically, mentally, spiritually? Doesn't mean you be a bore. Doesn't mean you're going to join the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and not even drink coffee. No. It's going to mean to create quality over quantity. That's what it means. But again, it's those big picture items, like simple things like demographics. That's why I like Peter Zion for big picture stuff only. He gets a lot of small stuff wrong, but big picture, you can't go past Peter Zion. Read his books, get the audio books, do whatever you got to do. Watch, read Peter Zion on those big picture items. This first step is re-establishing the United States in a leadership role as a unipolar world. US in control of the issuance of currency that maintain the flow of goods and services. Everybody get in line. But it's all run at the moment as a management program. They just managed the Ukraine war. They are now managing the Taiwan tension between China, and there's going to be a new deal done. Xi's going to go out on his own? He's going to do what he's told. He's got nowhere to go. One flick of a switch, he gets no tech. His economy's already collapsing. They're going to eat him alive, but they're getting ready for a new deal. And they may even, I have a sneaking feeling they're going to hand him Taiwan. And all the best tech, it works for America. All the best tech people are then going to come to the United States. And the technology is worthless to China because it's not going to work. But perhaps more realistically, what will happen is some form of blockade and a slow handing over to China over time, but absolutely no invasion, but some sort of blockade to keep Xi in power, because once he's vulnerable in power, you want to keep him there. It's the same with Putin. Once he's vulnerable and he's toast, you want to keep him there because then you just have to deal with him. And you can feed him the technology and feed him Russia's lifts are falling down. The infrastructure is falling apart. Their water pipes are bursting. They can't fix their turbines on the thing. It's starting to fall apart. It's been managed beautifully. This war has been managed, and Ukraine's been managed. They've got 200,000 people deserting their posts because no one has faith in the US. US goes beautiful, and they're getting ready to put 2 US bases in there. Maybe they'll be under NATO. French troops will be there. Macron's been told he's going to pull his weight. He's got excess population. He's got to give a job. Mars will be the military. And you see this management process. You're seeing the Middle East being managed now, getting ready for those fiber optic cables. That's what's going on, for good or ill. Now, the video above is an easy to follow and highly informative rundown of all we have discussed for many years. Funny, while a literal clown embarrassment, Elon Musk was pushed as a genius, the you go gal alpha female worshippers never, ever, ever pushed this true genius, Lisa Su, CEO of AMD. But now they are. What does this indicate? A new multipolar US-led world order. All clowns report to the pointless joke government department for the retarded called Doge. And I guarantee you all the stuff they say that Trump just cannot stand to be in the same room as this clown is 100% true. He's full-time at Mar-a-Lago in DC. Who's running Tesla and SpaceX? Anyone but the moron. Thank God. Indeed. And what they're doing now with China, they may open it up over the next 5 years or before, but they're all going to be doing deals, and Trump's going to be in on stuff. They're going to be in on stuff. Everybody's going to be in on the deal. I'd like to see the Chinese people freed, not used as a scary thing to shake a fist at people, but maybe they will be. But bottom line is there's a lot of money and a lot of resources can be made out of China. And by that, I mean, you can also need to lock down the population there. 1.4 billion people. They want 1 billion Chinese dead. And they also want another 1 billion Indians dead as well from that region. So we might see some exchange going on. The bottom line is when the US flexes its muscles, everybody listens. No one's going it alone. The US can crush you in 5 minutes, literally. I mean, you do realize that the Chinese economy is falling apart. They're already having riots on the streets. Just the beginning. It's just the beginning. So just stop with the fantasies. But it looks more and more like some sort of Cuban Missile Crisis blockade as they manage the region, as they manage local populations, seems to be the go. Trump admin plan, reshaping the planet for the benefit of AI. Give us your data, real-time preferred, 28 gigahertz and above, 5G. The Ukraine, Syria, etc. The multipolar world order being set up by Kissinger and associates and their screen actor proxies is off. A new US elite system is now being implemented under the new Trump administration, which will mimic exactly the former Biden administration, except with a glowing hot economy of goodness. A lot of goodies coming. Everyone gets an Xbox at the orphanage. Now watch the drivel coming from Putin's mouth, praising his Kissinger and associates buddies Xi and the multipolar world order. They were meant to administer with friends in Israel, France, Germany, and Iran. Let's watch this little segment, shall we? It's
Обе стороны проводят независимую и самостоятельную внешнюю политику. Мы солидарно работаем над формированием более справедливого и демократического многополярного мироустройства, которое должно...
Central role of the UN, Vlad. This is 2018. The central role of the UN. Law and order. Democracy. Sovereignty. Oh, so sweet.
Опираться на центральную роль организации.
Polar world order that needs to be based on the central role of the UN. I'll turn him down and I'll read it for you. Security Council, lowercase, international law, cultural diversity and civilizational variety, and a balance of interests of all members of the international community. Oh, that's sweet. I will, of course, inform Mr. President of China on the situation around the Ukrainian crisis. We are grateful to our Chinese friends. Oh, this is 2022. Our colleagues for the initiatives they put forward to solve this problem. Oh, that's sweet. It's just so sweet. It's just so sweet. Democracy, feel good, teddy bears. Yay, yay, yay. Putin cares. He really does. He weeps for justice and fairness and hugs and kisses both he and Xi, and they do it with a straight face. And, I don't know. I've given up trying to get out there about Kissinger's role in setting up with Yevgeny Primakov, Putin, and Xi. But anyway. The thousands, I repeat, thousands of images, articles, books, videos, and website posts on Putin and Xi and their fatherly relationship with the ultra-globalist Kissinger, right hand of Rothschild, and here we still sit, confused about who they are. Truly, the bar is low for deception these days. If the same people were running the show, there would have been no end to this multipolar world order program. Trump would not have shut off China and legislated the CHIPS Act to bring technology domination back to the United States. He would not be destroying the BRICS, and he has never, ever, ever given Putin a damn thing since 2016, ever. He blew away his Wagner mercs in Syria, killed Likud and Bibi's best friend, General Dajjal Soleimani, who Bibi refused to assist in killing, exposed Iran begging to him over the phone not to attack them as they fire missiles at a US base, humiliated the head of Lockheed for losing technology, humiliated Germany's leaders in NATO by berating them over using Russian gas while America defended them from Russia, and quietly fired Kissinger and Madeleine, 600,000 Iraqi children are worth it, Albright, from the Department of Defense Policy Board just after the DoD FBI run election. There's the DoD removes Kissinger, Albright from Policy Board. It is unclear why the Trump administration waited until its final months to shake up the influential group of outside experts advising top Pentagon leaders. Lockheed Martin's Marilyn Hewson to step down as CEO. This was late 2020. Head of Lockheed, Marilyn Hewson, followed a few months later. Now, this was 2020, February. They said she resigned. No one talks about these very central things. Look, criticize the vile orange clown, but do so in the context of everything to come to a reasonable conclusion and or speculation. Do not complain you never got all your cookies and ice cream and write off anyone or anything without taking in all the data. Your personal AI will be way off. Reshaping the Kissinger-Rothschild multipolar world order. That is what we are seeing unfold now. Saul Alinsky, Clinton's mentor. Don't destroy your enemies, take them over. Rules for radicals. The Center for AI and World Domination wants to be the Bunting Cloverleaf map and Israel, linking the Eurasian landmass to Africa with the greatest flow through of real-time data for analytics. This was to be the home of AI and the Antichrist. I wrote about it from a maximum security prison in January 2012, Ray Kurzweil and Transhumanism and AI. You can download the UN refugee application there. It's on page 625. So this is tapped from jail with a badly broken left arm, and I was literally holding this against my chest, untreated, displaced fracture, while I tapped away on a keyboard in Albany Maximum Security Regional Prison education room. That should go in the movie. So this is what I wrote, and this is what the pages look like in my stuff. This is Ray Kurzweil, 2012. You hear all about it now from a maximum security prison. With fiber to the node internet connections giving ordinary householders and businesses and corporations lightning fast access to the World Wide Web, then a quantum computer with highly sophisticated software could conceivably have access to the entire knowledge base of the planet. Some say this is the Antichrist spoken of in the Bible. Sophisticated artificial intelligence programs are already in use that can mimic the human thought process. Forget China. The greatest threat we face is from Israel, who is not only installing its electronic equipment throughout the world's telephone exchanges, it can draw on its vast SANEM network to facilitate access to locations and databases it ordinarily cannot access via its state-controlled companies, not to mention its extensive security contracts with public Class A infrastructure like airports, etc. Imagine a quantum computer developed by Jews in the US, perhaps jointly with Israel, linked in with the world's databases and the software that enables it to literally predict the future and track and trace every human on the planet. And imagine it in the hands of a people who think themselves God's chosen people with a history of religious and racial supremacism and a religion that promises they will rule the earth from Jerusalem. Don't arrest and charge the messenger. I'm just telling you what they say, think, and plan. Look what they can do with 4.4 million tweets with a few lines of information. And that is why we must say goodbye to Chabad, Jared Kushner, and the likes away from the Trump administration. And all of those Hasidim and the ultra-Orthodox. You need to go to a new place now. You need to go away. They don't want you in Israel. They want a secular state. They want to be normal. Just want to be normal people now. We can tolerate the Orthodox. We can sit down and have a conversation. But the ultra-Orthodox Hasidim and the Chabad Lubavitches of the world, the Lev Leviaths, the drug trade, the drug money laundering, the sex slave, the meth labs, the drug money laundering, the infiltration of churches, the giant mega churches, which are drug money laundering, all of that system has to be pulled apart. And these people, you can't fix them. They're lunatics. We just got to hope that their kids will just simply leave and their wives, and they'll just become, at some stage, normal people. But they need to be tracked and traced as a gigantic national security threat. They are a gigantic national security threat, and they cannot be allowed into any sensitive position anywhere within the United States. And that's a problem because Ann Neuberger is right up there in the NSA and other parts of policy, and she is an ultra-Orthodox Hasidic woman. She's not just Orthodox, she's ultra-Orthodox. And that is a problem. So the Trump administration better start doing something about it because it's vital in the interests of national security. I wrote that, not that whole document, but that document, the High Court appeal from jail in 2012. So now we can see US elites over the system and it all looks great, taking over the system and it all looks great, which ties in with what Mary sent me. I wrote this well before Mary sent me that thing. Foreign policy, great, jazz club. Central bank digital currency to be centered in the US and not Europe, and the Bank of International Settlements to be shifted to the US, powerful US economy and military to enforce the new rule sets, maintain trade routes and the supply of goods and services. Now look at who is central or flittering around the edges of this great transformation. Are you happy with this? None of us are happy with this, that's for sure. So, Ari Emanuel, remember that's bigger than Susie Wiles, I assure you. But we'll have to think about it. Now, here's what I write. I'm just trying to think. I'm not trying to be Q and tell you to trust the plan, but we need to think in all the different game theories we could come up with. When police break into a new criminal network, they pick who they will jail for the perp walk and who will be working for them to act as honeypots and informants and handlers. Insiders are paraded before the cameras in key positions, that's Susie Wiles and others, to calm the remaining criminal network who may have some code for the electrical grid. Who does Israeli intel assets Likud, Ram and Ari Emanuel work for now? I don't know. That's a question we're going to have to see unfold over the next 12 months. But People, you got to inform the Trump-tards because they're not quite as Trump-tardish as they used to be. They're pretty clued on these days. Rather than passing casual commentary on a social media platform, how does the US control the deep banking and criminal infrastructure that brought us to this point? How? You take it over, you employ informants, you run controllers. If during this transformation, Ted Bundy is employed to run Child Protective Services, if you don't know who Ted Bundy is, that's a mass murderer. One can only ask where your tipping point is to fall from trust the plan to come in suckers. Many of you have made up your minds. You pay me to think a little deeper at my Apple Crumble Cafe. Please consider final tentative conclusions. We are only at the beginning of a major geopolitical transformation, and I can only repeat this again and again. They wanted the US as a proxy state to the Rothschild Eurasian trading bloc. Now, you remember this article, The Times of Israel, 12th of February 2019. Again, I repeat it to you. The Israeli press is the number one source of information on this. They have been screaming, and I'm sure they're well pleased that change is taking place. Israel and Iran both set to join Russia-led free trade zone. Whitney Webb was not interested in this article, was she, Jalil? After 2 rounds of negotiations, Jerusalem close to agreement with the Eurasian Economic Union. Separately, Tehran also set to sign deal in the near future. Think about what that is. So when you see Trump going after the BRICS and going off in that only Trump rhetoric can do, damn your BRICS, well, that's the kind of language I like to hear. Let's hope it translates from high-end rhetoric to some high-end slapping bitches around. Quote, the ambassador also praised Israel for defying strong external pressure and refusing to join the US and other Western nations in imposing economic sanctions on Russia. Quote, we hope that our Israeli partners will continue to adhere to this line, he added. 12th of February 2019, and that's when Pompeo was over there saying, it's over, baby. Read the above quote again and again. Read the whole article. Take in its headline. Now, tell me it's business as usual. I don't think so. Trump was recently humiliating Evelyn de Rothschild's rent boy, Macron. If you didn't know, Macron worked for Evelyn de Rothschild for 5 years, and he's been over there embarrassing the shit out of the French leadership and elites. That's Trump, that is. Macron, along with Germany's Chancellor Schulz, previously had their tongues so far up Putin's backside it was a joke. Gerhard Schroeder is Frankfurt School Trotskyite middleman, and that is the only time you'll ever see Putin happy is when he's hanging out with Gerhard Schroeder, the former Chancellor of Germany, speaking in his fluent German. They say after Macron's meeting with Trump, Macron was rubbing his knees and wiping his mouth vigorously. Trump handed him some knee pads and smiled. The Council on Foreign Relations faithful wept bitter tears. And here is the only question we must ask. Is America stronger? Is America adhering to its constitution reasonably given the circumstances? Is America creating peace or strife? Is America demanding a politically engaged citizenry? Is America rejuvenating its families, popular culture, and middle class? Do corporations pay some tax? Who controls the Fed and Bank of International Settlements? Time will tell, and you are not a passive observer nor cheering for your team, and we will all get exactly what we deserve. Flying saucers, everybody. And there we go. I urge you now, as we will follow up with a few more questions, to think very deeply about the coming decades. Look down at your kids. You've got a chance to hone narratives and start getting involved. I don't want to say I'm optimistic. I'm very cautiously watching. Let's see what happens over the next month, which will be like a year. There's massive gaslighting going on. They're doing it on purpose, keeping everyone very busy, keeping that news cycle pumping along. I want to go to a few things. AMD CEO wants to chip away, so that you must watch. Again, all link below. I urge you to watch all this. New look at Taiwan Semiconductor's Arizona chip fab. Intel is apparently getting better and better and is making its comeback. About time. Jeez, you took long enough. Trump's pressure succeeds. His nation sever ties with the Chinese Communist Party. Alex Jones blocks the sales of InfoWars. Just briefly, I still need to explain this. Alex Jones was not pulled up and fined $1 billion for his view. What he was fined for and given a what do you call it? A verdict, a judgment, summary judgment, was because he wouldn't hand over the details of his finances because he didn't want them to become public. That's why he refused to take part. So they got a summary judgment. He was brought before the courts because he knew the Sandy Hook thing was crap. All right. Paul Joseph Watson was telling him in the emails and texts, stop getting that guy on. There are children that are dead. You need to stop it. And little Alex Jones fights us. No, we make good money out of this. We're going to keep going. That's what they went after him for. Now, dumbass didn't want to hand over anything that was to do with his finances because you would see just how much money he was making. I've never seen a man making more money than ever. What did I tell you? He's never paying a cent. It's a joke, the whole damn thing. And, you know, what do we see? God, I'm so sick of him. Now, this is interesting. The Ayatollah in Iran, I know a bit about Iran, not just because I've been there. One of the things they told me while I was in Iran was that one of the big problems going into the future is they didn't have another Ayatollah. They believed there was no one suitable to replace this Ayatollah Khomeini. So that's very interesting. So we're probably going to see the end of Iran. However, I think they're going to be kept around for a little while longer. Don't know, hard to say because they need it there to solidify the relationship between the Sunni Arab population and Israel. Now, this is something that was very interesting, and I wanted to lead with this, and now I've forgotten. And that is this. Now, Konstantin is inside Russia. He has some interesting things to say. He's an electrical engineer. He builds power stations. He speaks fluent English, and he's worked around the world. Very interesting chap. But he says a lot of interesting tidbits about Russia and how it's falling apart. In this one, at around 15 minutes, he talks about 5G. In fact, why don't we play it? This is interesting. The reason I find it so interesting is, as he says, what are you talking about? We're going to have 5G by 2030 in 16 Russian cities. Man, we can't even fix our stuff. But I'd say the deal's already been done. You can watch it yourself. It's linked below, where he's even going, what is this, all this talk? Oh, 5G is coming to 16 Russian cities by 2030. Again, I believe they've done a deal, or the best generals are killed off. A large portion of their youth have been killed off, just the people who want to learn to code. Putin's got rid of all his enemies. All his best generals are dead in the grave, under house arrest or in prison. He's killed off his officer class, and he's killed off a lot of the oligarchs and a lot of his enemies. So he will be kept there in Russian power, and the economy will be revived. He shakes a fist at Germany and France, and this is the way the US sits right there in Ukraine. Maybe they'll build a nice smart city to put Chabad Lubavitch in. That's very important video to watch there, that segment. You can really draw some conclusions there. Trump is inviting China's Xi Jinping to inauguration as a masterstroke move. Yeah, it is in a way. Why not do business? It'll be interesting. We'll tell a lot by what exactly happens with Taiwan. I definitely believe there's going to be a blockade, a period of intense tension, and then in will come Trump to fix things and blah, blah, blah. And maybe we'll see Xi, he'll do deals with Xi, the hero will do great big deals, and they will keep building the Chinese economy and give them the technology to hold down and shut down their population and do God knows what to them. The Primakov Doctrine, of course, is vital to understand the multipolar world. That is a very important video, and I hope you will share that around. That's 3 years old. The multipolar world, Russia's Primakov Doctrine in the Middle East. And of course, you know of Yevgeny Primakov, very close to Heinz Kissinger and good old Vladimir Putin. Very interesting, isn't it? Picture speaks 1,000 words. Kissinger and Yevgeny Primakov, Russian foreign minister. There's Yuri Primakov, Yevgeny Primakov, Putin handler, and Vladimir Putin. And they said, where did Putin come from? Came out of nowhere. No, he was placed there by that particular clique. And we're going to wind this up now. Remembering Intel's Andrew Gove, who sounded the alarm. Here is very interesting man, one of the originals. This is from the 30th of March, 2016. So when we hear all about this outsourcing and AMD, you'll see it all the time. Who was warning about this? None other than a Jew, a Hungarian Jew, Andy Gove. His real name is Gustav van Flinken, but he got out of Hungary after 56, came to the United States, liked what he saw, and there is Robert Noyce and Gordon Moore, and there's Andy Gove. Now, this guy was known as the Steve Jobs of his time. He was very hard man, very organized. Robert Noyce, you see there, genius, but really nice guy, and found it hard to boss people around. And it really took to make Intel go to the next level. They needed Andy Gove. Andy Gove came in and got everyone in order. Now, this is the very interesting point. This guy warned over and over and over again about why are you outsourcing all this technology? In the last 15 years of his life, Grove became one of those Cassandras, warning directly to the federal government of bad news on the economic front. For the sake of the United States, his management philosophy could have been changed with one word, inserting country in place of company, to read, "There is no tolerance for punishing people who bring you bad news, because nothing less than the existence of your country's future is at stake in how you handle situations like that." Now, this is 2016. Sadly and inexplicably, the US government has refused to listen to the millions of people who are on the front lines of globalization, losing their jobs and seeing the destruction of their communities, major American cities, and thousands of once prosperous towns. The US government even refused to listen to people like Grove, who warned about the dire consequences of allowing for the loss of the country's high-tech industrial base. In November 2003, when a massive wave of offshore outsourcing was swamping the US electronics, IT, and software industries after the dot-com bubble burst, Grove went on the offensive. In a speech in Washington, Grove said that he was there to be a skunk at your garden party. At the time, 500,000 jobs in the US electronics sector had disappeared, outsourced to Asia, and they were not coming back. A large number of well-trained, diligent people are out of work, Grove said. The job recovery of previous cycles and the absence of recovery in the current cycle suggests that something is basically different there. He drew an X-curve in which the US global market share of high-tech industry was going down while the foreign share was heading up. He described the forces in place that would worsen the situation for Americans, the most important being the low pay of workers in India and China. "I think it is germane to ask, what is the public policy response?" Grove said. "I am hard put to find a document, statement, or public policy series on this global shift." 2 months later, Grove got his responses. On February 10, 2004, the chairman of the White House Council of Economic Advisors, Gregory Mankiw, said, quote, "I think outsourcing is a growing phenomenon, but it's something that we should realize is probably a plus for the economy in the long run." Yeah. I want another Kissinger and Associates boy, a barbarian inside the gates in a $1,000 Trotsky suit. Here's what Grove had to say about that. Quote, that's Andy Grove, the Hungarian Jew. Quote, "What depresses me most is they haven't even articulated or recognized the problem. Even though the presidential campaign is upon us, I haven't even picked up streams of problems recognition nor a debate on this issue and what could or should be done about it. Even if that debate started today, I think time is our enemy. If it doesn't start, our actions will be too little, too late, and too depressing, even for me." Grove repeated his warnings and pleas for the US government to develop a strategy to revive the American industrial sector in 2010. Speaking by proxy to the Washington, D.C. conference on the renaissance of American manufacturing, Grove called on the federal government to adopt a policy aimed at rebuilding the American manufacturing sector. He called on the Commerce Department to change its focus from export promotion to bringing money into US manufacturing. He called for the creation of a US government development board that would meet every week to figure out why companies were leaving the United States and to implement effective policies to reverse the trend. For the past 15 years, the management of the United States, the elites and establishment in both political parties, the Clinton, Bush, and Obama administrations, academia, corporations, finance, and the media, have been punishing the millions of people who have been messengers of bad news. Washington has refused to listen to innocent and now angry citizens whose lives have been destroyed by the lack of action to protect American manufacturing from mercantilist foreign trade practices that reward those who live in the investment income generated by that system. Chief among these Cassandras or warners was Hungarian immigrant and business pioneer Andrew Grove, who had a lot to say about the loss of American manufacturing and the outsourcing of white-collar jobs. Quote, 1st of July 2010. "The first task," is Andrew Grove, "the first task is to rebuild our industrial commons. We should develop a system of financial incentives, levy an extra tax on the product of offshored labor. If the result is a trade war, treat it like other wars. Fight to win." Well done, Trumpy. "Keep that money separate, deposited in the coffers of what we might call the scaling bank of the US, and make these sums available to companies that will scale their American operations. Such a system would be a daily reminder that while pursuing our company goals, all of us in business have a responsibility to maintain the industrial base on which we depend and the society whose adaptability and stability we may have taken for granted. Unemployment is corrosive. If what I'm suggesting sounds protectionist, so be it." End quote. Sadly, Grove is gone. An important era of American leadership in high-tech manufacturing ends. It happens at the start of a new populist uprising over the very issues Grove was most concerned about. America must heed Grove's sage advice that only the paranoid survive. Indeed, the Alliance for American Manufacturing. On that note, We'll leave it with that righteous Jew there, Andrew Grove. Again, look up the foundations of Intel. What a fascinating, incredible time to be in Silicon Valley during that time. Robert Nice, real incredible people. And then you look at someone like an Elon Musk, a congenital village freaking idiot, and you look at the scum and the weirdos and the degenerate public culture scumbags are pushing and promoting down when you see the quality from before coming up through the 60s and 70s. And 80s, now leading into this age of morons they keep pushing, including the Bill Gates and the Steve Ballmers of the world, while the real people, the real brains, are often pushed to the side and we never hear of them. Ladies and gentlemen, we are indeed entering one of the most interesting times in history. I suggest when you look at it and observe and think about it, that you remember that you're taking part in history. I'm very pleased to have taken part in history. It's helped me grow as a human being. Sometimes I'm embarrassed to look back at my old stuff. But by God, did I give them a man, they knew they'd been danced with. So now I hope that we head into the next 100 years. I'm going to convince you that next week it's over. It's nuclear war. The aliens are coming. The freaking drones. Oh my God, I don't even want to comment on that stupid drone shit. It's like the duck. Remember they said the UFOs and they showed the footage from the FA-18 camera? It's a duck. It's a duck flapping its wings. You can see the parallax of the ocean beneath it. Or the thing that drifted across the American base in Iraq. It's a balloon from a wedding. And they just laughing at you, dumb goy. It makes me sick. Just leave it alone. It's an Inspire 3 or one of those big hexcopters and they stick some lights on it and flew it over. And oh my God, it's the size of a bus. I mean, give it a rest, please. Ladies and gentlemen, we left you with Andrew Grove and the great tale of how Intel Corporation used to be. Looks like it's making a comeback. They've sacked a bunch of people, including Gelsinger, who was too busy apparently making posts of Proverbs and the Psalms of David on his thing. Gee, maybe he was the Israeli whisperer. But as we all know, there appeared to be some big, giant problems in Intel. And maybe it had something to do with this. Does it have something to do with that, ladies and gentlemen? Intel appoints 10 Israeli executives to senior global positions, December 2021. Maybe it has something to that, and a bunch of pretend Russian Jews who are probably spies who should be killed according to the Israeli press. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll leave you with the great Bill Cooper and F. Scott Fitzgerald. We will talk again soon. Again, I'm going to be spending a lot of time focusing on breaking up the K. Griggs 7-hour interview, but I will be doing Mad Monks very, very regularly. And in fact, I enjoy doing them, and we may even do some more live streams. We'll talk again very, very soon. Thanks for watching. Have a pleasant Saturday night, pleasant weekend. F. Scott Fitzgerald, quote, "The test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposing ideas in the mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. One should, for example, be able to see that things are hopeless and yet be determined to make them otherwise. This philosophy fitted on to my early adult life when I saw the improbable, the implausible, often the impossible, come true."
What is our common bond truly? Freedom. Freedom. Without freedom, you can't be a Christian no matter what denomination you belong to. You can't be a Buddhist. You can't own a donut shop. You can't drive from here to Oregon. You can't be an American because that's what it's all about, and it's the only thing that it's all about, nothing else. Nothing else. It's about freedom.